Hey, this is Mike Shank, and this is the At Speed podcast presented by Rocky Fork Company.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, racing fans across the country and around the world, welcome back to another At Speed podcast starring Mike Shank and navigated by yours truly, Tim May. And we've got a very special guest on today, taking a little time out of his extremely busy day. Jim Meyer, the CEO of SiriusXM, but race fans know him as the co-owner now of Meyer Shank Racing. Jim, welcome to the At Speed podcast.
Thanks, Tim. I'm thrilled to be here.
Man, let's just jump right into it. Why did you want to get into auto racing, my man? I mean, what gives people some background, and then how you hooked up with Mike Shank?
Much like pain, I think, is the reason I got into it.
There you go.
Yeah, and when I got to tell you, when I first proposed talking about this with Mike, I'm not kidding. Like the first 3 times, he said, "Are you really sure you know what you're doing?" And then, after something, I don't know, something goes wrong, I always look at him and say, I'm not sure I knew what I was doing. No, I mean, I've always had a passion for, particularly for IndyCar racing. I moved out to Indianapolis in 1980 and took a job there. I'd never lived in the Midwest, never actually been to any kind of auto race. And took my wife's father wanted someone to take him to the Indianapolis 500, he and his friend, and I took them, and from that day on, I just started really enjoyed it, and then as I met a lot of people in Indianapolis and got deeper into it, obviously, many people in Indianapolis are probably a much bigger percent of people there are true race fans than a lot of other cities in the country, and just really enjoyed it. And it had various sponsorship kind of things that I've done with different companies that I've worked at. But in 2000, I think it was 2000. Was it 2016? It was 2017, right, Mike? I think
17, yeah, 17.
Yeah, where I actually met a young kid in Indianapolis through a friend of mine who had been trying to put together some funding so he'd actually gotten an opportunity to use an Andretti car. I didn't even know what team it was for the Indy 500. Frankly, didn't even have anywhere near enough money just to do one race, and that was Jack Harvey. And I met Jack through a really good friend of mine in Indianapolis named Ann Bolin, and Jack convinced me as a fan and as an executive at SiriusXM to enter into a sponsorship agreement. I can remember I told him, I told Mike, I told, this is a one-time thing. I'm only going to do this one time. Here you come on.
I'm only going to eat one Lay's potato chip. Go ahead.
And I said, this is it. Don't call me again. Don't anything again. And I'd actually never met Mike. And I met Mike at the track. Honestly, we had one of the most enjoyable experiences, I've had in a long time, in that because nobody expected we would be any good. And I was immediately impressed how Mike had already put together, an effort and a team with a lot of things lacking that others had.
Yeah.
Certainly we believed we had a chance to be, if things went perfect, in the top 10 or the top 15. And I got to know Mike. And then, I had a casual conversation with him and said, hey, Mike, I'm, kind of at the apex of my career. And when I retire, I'd kind of like to find some other things to do. I'm really interested in racing. How would you like a partner? And Mike said, I have no interest in having a partner. And I said, now that you remind me, I got no interest in getting into racing. Why'd I do this? And then, kind of like an abusive relationship. And then about 5 days later, we said, well, let's have lunch again anyways. And so Mike drove over from Columbus. He and I meet at this one place out, block from the Speedway. And
big one.
Yeah, Big Woods Brewery, and we started having lunch every couple weeks, talking about what could we do here. And I got to tell you, Mike went out of his way to impress upon me how challenging and difficult this sport is, and how many highs and lows there would be. But I got to tell you what I was really impressed with, quite candidly, and Mike doesn't need any work on his ego, but was just the starting first and foremost when I got to know the guys that work at what now is Meyer Shank Racing, which back then was, by the way, we're so cheap. We put our team together. It was Mike Shank Racing, and Shank said to me, there's no need to change the logo. We just changed it to Meyer Shank Racing. We don't have to change the logo anywhere in any of our stuff. I thought, man, this is perfect. This is exactly what I'm looking for.
Man, if Delta and Northwest had figured that out, but go ahead though.
But what I got to tell you, Tim, is when I really got to meet the guys at MSR, and I really saw some of these guys had been there a long, and for me, as I don't know, I love racing, but I don't have anywhere near the knowledge that you do, or certainly that Mike does, or a lot of other people in racing do. But I do know, it's all about organization, no matter what you do, and it's all about how well that organization is skilled and how well that organization works together. And I'll emphasize, it really does come down to how hard are they willing to work. And I was impressed from day one with what I saw. And I was impressed with day one, and I'm not kidding here, that the way Mike and MB, Mike's wife, was our partner, the way they carry themselves with a degree of honesty. And that was really important to me, getting into something you don't really know a whole lot about. And, I'd say it took us about, I don't know, Mike, it took us 5 months, maybe. I mean, we
dancing.
Yeah, we got pretty close to, and then Mike said to me, and then the argument was, I said to him, well, I only really like IndyCar racing. I don't really want to have anything to do with sports car racing. And then he asked an interesting question, which is, you ever been to a sports car race? And I said, no. And in fact, I've never watched one. I don't know if I have any interest. And he said, well, why don't you come down to the last race of the year in Atlanta and Petite and come down and see it. And I went down with a friend of mine, and I have to tell you, I was blown away. Number one, I immediately, I don't think I've ever seen so many $500,000 and $1 million RVs parked, and immediately it was clear to me I didn't really understand what IMSA was all about, and then that happened to be a day that was very competitive. Our team, I really saw the competitive spirit, believe me, come out with a little bit of on-track drama, and that's when I said to Mike that, after that race, okay, I get it. And Mike's argument wasn't, you just got to get in this deeper. His argument was, look, my vision from day one is that we're going to race in both circuits, but that we're going to use the strong nucleus we have to build around. And I don't know how you separate that, in some type of an agreement. And so, long story short, fast forward, we have a great partnership. No confusion. Mike runs the racing team, and I love it. And I have to tell you, as a diehard IndyCar fan, and I love IndyCar racing, I've really grown to really like IMSA racing. I love the effort of our teams. Although I got to tell you, Mike tells me, for how great the Rolex 24 is. You got to go to this race, greatest racers in the world, and so I go down for my first one, which wasn't last year; it was the year before, and it's a breathtaking day in Daytona. Not a cloud in the sky. They start the race at 2:00, and I mean, it starts raining about, I don't know, maybe Well, number one, I realized 24 hours is a
long time. Yeah.
Okay. And, and Mike says, I stay on the stand the whole 24 hours. And he goes, by the way, so does Roger Penske. So I said, well, shit, if Mike and Roger can do it, I'm going to stay on the stand. Well, 24 hours is a long time. Okay?
Yeah.
And it starts pouring rain. And then it rains biblically. Okay. And I'm sitting there going, what in the world am I doing here? The worst experience ever. Oh my God. I don't want to give you all the detail. I parked I took my car out at like 4:00 in the morning, I think, to go get coffee or something to bring back for the team. Then they wouldn't let me back in my parking spot. So I'm parked out in the middle of nowhere. In the pouring rain, I finally walk in. And anyways, long story short, the thing stops and starts. We really got upset with kind of the way they started and stopped the race. And, yeah, we were doing horrible, and being a truly good sport. As soon as the thing was over, I'd charge out. I'm leaving. We're not going to be competitive. I'm not going to stay around. And some guy in the park, out in the field, says something to me, and I'm ready to drop my gloves and and duke it out with him. I'm by myself. Man, this racing sure is great. Out in the middle of somewhere I don't know a soul and in the worst mood. But I got to tell you, I really enjoy the sport. But I will tell you what I really like as much as being around the people on our team, and the fact that I get to interface with them at the races. And I try to get over Columbus, not that often, but so that we can that to me what it's all about. And then Mike and I talk I don't know, almost every day, if not every day. Mm-hmm. And we're having a heck of a lot of fun. And we were thrilled then to put together what we would consider to be a pretty good runway in IndyCar racing, and secure Jack Harvey, who I also am a huge fan of. I'm a big Jack Harvey guy. Just like the rest of us, I was over in Fort Lauderdale for a business meeting, the day before I was heading to St. Pete for the start of the season, and here we sit. So we're chomping at the bit now for Fort Worth in Texas to get started, and then to get our first IMSA race going several weeks later.
Hey, Mike, what told you that Jim Meyer could be an able partner? I mean, what just jumped out at you about it besides the gleam in his eye after he finally discovered IndyCar racing?
Well, when I say I didn't know who the hell he was, I didn't know who the hell he was. He thinks he's a pretty big wheel, and I had to dig into him pretty much to find out what kind of guy Jim was. But it was easy. It wasn't that hard, Tim. All I had to do was talk to a couple of people that work for him or have worked for him over the years, and it wrote the book, right? Now, my wife and I had a partner 15, 16 years ago, and we're on our own there for a while, and we're doing okay. And we hadn't considered it at all until Jim called. And I had a sneaking suspicion that kind of common Midwest mentalities and approaches, good and bad. So we're both a little fiery sometimes, both have a lot of passion to win, don't tolerate losing real well, but most importantly, are super loyal and understand there's good times and understand there's bad times. I didn't want Jim to come into racing and get burnt out and be gone in 2 years. I warned him plenty of times. This is not an exercise for him or his family to spend money every month to support racing. This business supports itself, or we just don't do it. Yeah, it's important, and we've followed that, I think, Jim, pretty close, right?
So, we have. Tim, I got to tell you something else. When I'm the worst, okay? Because when I got into this, Mike made it very clear about highs and lows, and and I listened to him, and I got to tell you, we've had some lows, and we've had, we've had some times where we weren't competitive, and I'm not going to kid, it just sucks now, especially now that I understand it more and I get it. Yeah, it is very frustrating. But then, and I'll never forget in our first IndyCar race. I mean, when we finally finished in the top 15 or 16, I was ecstatic how great that was. And Tim, it's like everything else. You're ecstatic till in the Indy Grand Prix, you're on the podium, and then it's, well, wait a minute, I really like this.
Yeah.
Or we win at Watkins Glen and IMSA. And of course, last year we were the GTD series champion, right? Which was a great honor for us, and a great, when Mike and I and the team were down at the award ceremony in Atlanta to receive the team's award for the championship. Man, I mean, once you get that taste, you just want more and more of it.
Yeah,
and so I get it. I get how it wrecks stuff. Trust me. I mean, it's a tough deal, but when it works, it's pretty exhilarating.
And Jim, is it a sense, just like in your own business, is it a sense of your businesses? Is it a sense that it's you feel the consummate group effort kind of feeling when good things happen? You know what I mean? I remember Steve Horn was the guy that ran True Sports under Jim Truman way back when they won the Indy 500 back in '86 with Bobby Rahal. Yep. And we're at the award ceremony. It was 6 days, 7 days later because of the rain delay and all that kind of stuff. So they had an abbreviated ceremony over at the golf course, over at Indy back then. And Steve spent most of his time standing in the background watching his team enjoy themselves. You understand what I mean?
Yep.
He said it was such a consummate experience to see everybody who had worked so hard have that moment. And that's what you experienced too, right? I mean, the
yes.
podium last year at Indy, that had to be cool, but it also had to be cool to see the looks on the team's faces.
Well, and I'm still getting it because I'm gonna give you an honest confession here, okay?
Yeah.
We were in the Grand Prix, and it was pouring raining at the end, and they're screaming at Jack on the radio, "You go get him! You can get the leader! You can get this guy!" And I'm quietly saying, third isn't so bad. Because cars are sliding all over the place, and everything else. But I mean, that's not the way racers work. That's not the way racing works. Nobody there. You don't find many people who go, "I'm okay with second," right?
Yeah.
And I love that. I tell you the other thing, Tim, drives me nuts. Okay, they take the damn car apart every day. Okay. If we have a great day, they take the car apart. If we had a lousy day, they take the car apart. I keep saying to Mike, when we have a good day, why don't they just leave it on Put a little cover over it. No, that's not the way we do it.
That was one of the first things that blew my mind, when I really got into covering racing, was that very thing about no matter what, quality is king here. You know what I mean? And the pieces, you want your pieces, the tolerances, et cetera, want to be just exactly right, or you can't really, compare it to yesterday unless you do all that, And I'll tell you what drives me nuts, by the way, is watching drag racers, because I've covered Jeg Coughlin forever, and, the Jegs brand, you've heard of that. And those guys do that. And like I said, I never understood working on a car for 2 hours to run it for 5 seconds. You know what I mean? In a straight line. That really doesn't make sense to me. But past that, Jim, when you went to your first IndyCar race or whatever, what was it just about the atmosphere or the actual race that just touched something in you? What was it about it?
I think, and I'm a big sports fan, period. I love sporting events. But when you go to the Indianapolis 500, I think the thing that first, and by the way, Tim, I don't know how many people, and I got to tell you my history. I started going, as I told you, with my father-in-law.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then I went with a big group of, I'll call them degenerates, who are also my closest friends, and it was, it's, by the way, it's the only event in the world where they check your cooler to make sure you have enough beer when you're going in.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't bring beer in.
Give me a sense of the era. What are we talking about? What year?
This would have been the early 80s.
That was when the Snake Pit was still alive, et cetera.
Yeah. And I remember that race that Ray Hall won. I remember going out there, I think 3 different times in the rain. And,
there you go.
There wasn't hardly anybody there the last day, but But and I started going with a group of guys, and I didn't have any kids, and now I got 3 kids. All my kids go. It's but what draws you to it first and foremost is to see the crowd at that race and to see the excitement you can't describe it. You have to take somebody to it.
Yeah.
And then number two, I just had no appreciation for how fast it is.
Yeah.
And when you sit up higher somewhere, you don't really get it. But, if you go down anywhere near the track, and even there's just one car and it goes by, it just takes your breath away for, like, how do you do this? I mean, how do you actually, pilot this thing at this speed? And then once you see one start, to me, you're addicted, at least to me, forever. Now, I'll tell you, Tim, I've entertained, by the way, just about me. Then through SiriusXM, and early on, SiriusXM had a very early, and still do, a very strong relationship with Roger Penske and with Penske Automotive. Okay.
Yeah.
So I started going the race with Roger. Well, that's a different experience, sitting up in the suite and all. And I think I did it for about and they're just such gracious hosts, and and it's such a nice time. And after about 7 years, I said to my wife, I'm just not sure this is me.
Yeah.
I mean, I need to go back. I got to go back with the other guys, and go back to and so that's the way I went back to doing it for 10 or 15, 10 years until I met Mike. I got to tell you, the way to do it now is as an owner. There's no greater experience. But what I would say is about the Indy 500, back to your question, I've watched it, and, there are seldom people say, it's okay, right? You either get people who come who say, right, and I got a whole bunch of them I can't get rid of now, who then, come every year, or they immediately say, yeah, interesting, but not for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
yes.
it's digital. Okay. But
Yeah.
the ones that it's a 1 for, not a 0, they immediately get it. And I think that's at the heart of your question. It's once you get a taste of it, and then, I started going to other IndyCar races in the late 80s with a group of friends. And I just, as I said, I had never been to an IMSA race until Mike took me in 2017.
Yeah.
Now I've been to many, and I really enjoy I really enjoy the IMSA racing as well. But I really appreciate how hard it is. And I love to watch how hard the guys work. And there's just no better feeling when all that hard work pays off.
I was going to say, Jim, I sat 17 rows up. Me and a buddy of mine, guy who has been covering IndyCar for a long time, Bruce Martin. He gets tickets every year somewhere differently in a different spot on the track, But one year, so we go out and watch the first 15, 20, 30 laps till the first caution, from the stands. And we sat about 17 rows up right at turn 1, where turn 1 starts. And I've told many drivers, Graham Rahal, I told Bobby down the line, I've told a million drivers, if you sat right there and watch the start of that race, when they go from 80 miles an hour the previous lap to 220 on the next one, 33 cars, I said, you wouldn't do that. You wouldn't be sitting there. And it's like you said, every time it just takes your breath away. And then you're thinking, then you meet Jack Harvey, right? Seems like a pretty sensible guy, right?
Yes. Yeah.
What do you think it takes to
Jack's such a conservative man in the rest of his life.
Yeah.
And yet, he clearly loves the speed and loves the challenge, right? And
what do you think it is?
It's so funny too. We were. I shouldn't even tell this story. Jack will be so angry at me. But the year before last is we were doing. We were. I think we did. What we do, Mike? I think we did 5 or 6 races.
Six races, yeah.
And during the 500, and our technical alliance was with Schmidt Peterson Racing, which we had a great 2 years with.
Yeah.
I mean, we really did. But somewhere in there, Sam suggested, well, maybe you know, we're not getting the speed we want. Let's let James, you know, let James try Jack's car and see if he can get any more out of it. I got to tell you, I saw Jack standing there. It was like taking a while. I don't know. I mean, his feet were moving. And I just loved annoying him when when James was in that car. He didn't think it was near as funny as I did.
Yeah.
But man, I'm telling you, you see that competitive edge all the time. But it just came, it just was so front and center to me, and I just loved it. You know what I mean? I just loved it. By the way, James didn't get the car going any quicker either, just for the record.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Sometimes, despite what the owners think, it's not the driver, But, hey, by the way, what's the fastest you've ever been in an automobile? You've ever done?
I think the fastest I've been is 165.
And what give us the time and circumstance?
I went for a ride along. It wasn't a NASCAR, but it was a NASCAR class car the day before a NASCAR race.
Yeah. Did it give you an appreciation?
Yeah, but I got to tell you, yes, but it was an oval. Okay.
Yeah.
The Mike set me up to go for a ride in an IMSA car, an Acura, at the Petite.
Road Atlanta. Yeah.
Also, a good friend of mine who's in racing, whose name's Sean Gibbons, who races. He works at Sirius, but he also races in various classes of cars and the series, a different series in IMSA. The two of them got me kind of hooked up in this thing, and I'm not even quite sure what the speeds were, but when you go around a road course like that at those speeds, man, you really get an appreciation. I'm not saying ovals are any use. That's not what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's just the stopping and starting is so extreme, right? That
yes.
It was such a different experience. And I certainly know we were in the hundreds, but the stopping and the starting is just, and the velocity of the turns, I just didn't really have any experience for it until I did it.
Exactly.
I'm pretty sure that's not my strong point. So.
I've told Mike, Bobby Rail took me around Mid-Ohio one time in a Chevy Consulier, which is a ground effects car. So we hit like 155 or something down the back straightaway, but through the S's, over the hump, dips and turns. I go, well, I got another thing. I said, now I know why you guys do this. I mean, it was like riding a roller coaster, except you do it 90 laps, in an afternoon. And like you pointed out, what is most impressive about big time race cars, it's not as just how fast they go, but it's how fast they slow, how fast they brake. I mean, F1 cars are crazy, it's hard to fathom.
When you get in our Acura NSX and
yeah,
you really appreciate, especially a long road course like Petite or Wisconsin or something, the stopping and starting, and it's or God, for Watkins Glen, we had a hell of a year. We won last year, but even the year before we were so competitive, and it takes so much out of you. But I got to tell you also, Tim, my wife and my youngest daughter have both ridden in the 2-seater at Indy, so they've been whatever speed, 170, whatever that is, and they think they're the biggest badasses in the world.
Oh yeah. Hey, I always equate. By the way, I'm going to ask Mike a question real quick, but I always equate when you watch a car go down the front straight there and qualifying at like 230, 235. Yeah. That's more than twice as fast as Nolan Ryan's best fastball. You know what I mean? That's how fast they're going.
It's an amazing thing.
Hey, Mike, what has Jim brought to the table to your team that you lean on, or that you found that has enhanced it?
I suspected, and my wife and I suspected. I consider I'm kind of a foot soldier. I'm an operations guy, right? And Jim has lived in the CEO kind of 30,000 foot level for so long, and is so good at it. We suspected that we needed some help in a couple areas above what I'm great at, right?
Yeah.
And little did I know how much and how lucky we got with him. And I'll give you an example. This whole COVID thing worried us all a lot. 8 weeks ago, you can trust me when I say this. Jim called me the next day after I got to St. Pete. Got home from St. Pete on a Friday morning, Thursday night. And by Saturday, he was on the phone with me with a plan to save the business.
Wow.
Okay. Now, I would have slept for the weekend and moped for a while.
Yeah.
He called me, he said, Mike, this is what we need to do. And it just convinced me and my wife more than ever that we got lucky. I mean, we got really lucky that we have someone that's got, he's got Pandora he runs. He's got so many things, but he's still thinking about this little nut over here and how to make sure it's right. And I got his plan literally saved the company for the next year. So that's one thing, right?
Yeah.
But I think if you look at it, he hung out with Penske a lot, which I just don't get, but he did. But now, if you want to find me and Jim at the Speedway in August at 6 p.m., come to the front. We both have motorhomes right next to each other, and we love being there. And we will sit out there with him, me and him, our team, his friends, my friend, and we drink beer. So, and that's where I think we're both most comfortable, right?
Hey, yeah.
And the sensibilities, those common sensibilities, I think will drive this team to pretty high levels. We're not even close to being done yet.
There are a few sites as cool as a pagoda lit up at night, and I don't know if y'all can see that, but I mean,
we're literally, Tim, we're literally where we park where our motorhomes are parked.
Yeah.
Hey, by the way, Tim, you got to hear. The first year I rented my own. I didn't let I had no idea what the owners, motorhomes, and all that meant. Man, I rented this thing that looked like something out of Caddyshack. And Mike sent one of our hauler guys over to get it. I don't want to despair where I got it, but anyways, I got it. And I was actually in New York, and Mike called me. He said, "Do you know what you rent? You know what kind of motorhome you rented?" And I said, "Motorhome. I don't know what it is."
Yeah.
Said, well, you are going to be the Caddyshack owners when you get here. I rented this thing. Oh my God! The side was supposed to go out when I did all the trim popped off. And, it was.
Let me tell you how bad it was. Tim, he had. I walked into the motorhome about halfway through, and he wouldn't even get under the car. He brought a sleeping bag on top of his head.
But the highlight, I got to tell you, is still in the evening when everybody's gone. Maybe some of our guys, or maybe some of our, Mike's friends or my friends or both are around, and that the way that pagoda is lit up, and they're and you're literally 100 yards from it or whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun, and it's as I said to Mike, and Mike said to me, by the way, back to the point, the class of the sport, obviously, I couldn't be more thrilled that Roger bought the series. And
I was going to ask you that. Yeah.
I just think it's so fantastic. And, I've known him a long, long time. And we've done some really complicated things together in business. And I got to tell you, he's a brilliant business guy too. And just knows how to make things work, and in a true spirit of we're in this together and we're going to make it work. Yeah. And so I'm thrilled that he's running this, he's running the series, but I have to tell you, once you get down there, you want to beat him. I mean, I never thought I'd be like that. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I kind of, but man, I won't say who it is. One of his guys said something about one of our guys, and it made me, my face got so red. And, I'm like, Jack, I want you to go out there and kick their ass. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the competitive spirit of it. But put it this way: if Mike and I in IndyCar could end up anywhere near what Roger's done, we're going to be pretty happy. Let me tell you.
I was going to say, man, you just take one of those Borg Warners and go home with it, right? I mean, yeah. I mean, have it sitting by the fire the next year, when you're sitting out there having a good time. By the way, everybody knows St. Bonaventure Bonnies are known for their fighting spirit, by the way.
There you go. There you go.
Hey, Jim, man, what a rush this has been having you on with us, my man, and hope to see you a few more times on this podcast because, it is the Mike Shank. I'm just kind of hanging on, but, I want to get some pictures, videos at Indy this year with you guys sitting around the, quote, campfire, chewing the fat after qualifying or whatever. Because, I mean, like you just pointed out, if you could just take people there just once and have them have an open mind and just to get the experience, the build up to that race. I'm talking about especially race day, all the pomp and circumstance, and then watch a start. You're right. You will decide who is and isn't a fan in a heartbeat, because if that doesn't like to make the hair on the back of your neck stand up, what does, right?
Yeah. Hey, Tim, I just want to say one other thing. First and foremost, thanks very much for having me on. It's obvious. I think you could tell, Mike and I really have a special relationship, and believe me, it gets tested, because it's very, I want to win. I want to win.
Yeah.
I mean, and once you get a taste of it, you really want to do it. I got to tell you, Mike has got our guys so ready right now. We've just put together. I just can't tell you how happy we are with the quality of the team we have, both on the IndyCar side, the IMSA side, the dedication and support of our guys. They've done everything we've asked them to do. Everything we've asked them to do. And, we're all just chomping at the bit, and, there isn't anything any of us can do about the unfortunate situation that the country finds itself in with the tragedies that we're dealing with around the COVID-19 virus. But I got to tell you, we just, in terms of, our plan when I met Mike was, we're going to go slow and easy at IndyCar. Okay. We're going to do 5 races, then we're going to do 10 races, then we're going to do a full season. And we've kept every commitment we've made, and that's as important to us than anything. Yeah. And between the guys in Ohio and Jack, we're just chomping to go. And then, our both of our IMSA cars, and Acra's been great to us. They're I've known the Acra guys through SiriusXM a long time, although never really, tight like this in racing. And Mike has a long-standing relationship with them that I can't tell you how it's valuable to us, and what class guys they are, both at HPD and then of course Acra as well. So it's just we're just ready to go, man. We just want to go racing. So,
I was going to say, it is amazing how many people are involved, right? Getting a car to go fast. I'm talking, right, Jim? Just like with your company, the thousands of people who work at SiriusXM, it is amazing how many people it takes just so you can taste champagne, right?
Well, yeah. By the way, just as Jack, when we were qualifying last year in COTA, was both good and bad early on. And I think it was, I can't remember, it was in qualification or practice, the car slid off into one of the sand collectors, and I thought no big deal. And they brought the car in. I had no idea how many hours it would take the guys to take the car apart to get, because of the downforce, number one, how much the sand gets sucked up in the car. But number two, back to your point, Tim, it only takes 1 granule or 2 granules of sand to be and you're screwed. You're gonna, something bad's gonna happen. And so it is both the raw speed and the raw courage of the driver, and the skill is so important, but the details just matter, and I didn't really appreciate that until I've been this close to it, and just how much getting the details right day in, day out matters, and and how much we got to dedicate ourselves to making sure we're excellent at that. And there's no reason we can't be. I don't buy this, well, you guys are a little team. We're not a little team anymore. Okay. We expect to win, and our guys expect to win. So I just, I had like 13 guys lined up to be down in, a big team down in St. Pete. We would have had a blast down there, plus tore that place up a little bit. So of course we're not, it's going to be very few of us at Texas to start, but just getting started is going to be so good for the sport, and good for I know for our team, and to be able to get there going. So thanks again, Tim, for having me.
Yeah. Hey, Jim, let me ask one more thing. Do you like the trajectory this has been a hiccup, but do you like the trajectory IndyCar is on from the standpoint of bringing back sponsors, et cetera? Now, there's going to be a big test now, but with this coronavirus thing. But do you like the trajectory it's on?
I love it. And by the way, I'll come back to your latter point and then to your first one. The every sport in America is going to have it. Every sport in the world,
yeah,
has got a challenge because of the coronavirus. I read the Miami Dolphins have put together their safe plan. How they're going to be starting with 25% of the fans. That's going to challenge the sport in a lot of ways. So we all got challenges ahead of us. I think that's one of the great reasons too, at least for Mike and I as partners, is I think we both bring a lot to those challenges. And there is an area, I think, in the teamwork I can help a little more than, in the day-to-day operating of a race team, and certainly the race strategy that we go through before and during every race. Back to where IndyCar is going. I think it's a shame to see what happened to IndyCar's part all the way back to the CART IndyCar split. And, one of the things I never wanted to be in my career is the guy that screwed up a good thing. You know what I mean? I've always been involved with fixing things, but I never want to be the guy that screwed up the good thing. And they screwed up a good thing. You can't. Fans matter. This is what at the end of the day, what we impress upon. And Jack gets it. Believe me, he gets it better than I. That's one of the reasons why I like him as a man, and I respect him. It's all about the fans and the sponsors. You know what I mean?
Yes.
You're in this, and really, you're in this for the fans. Okay. If the fans don't want to come, and the fans aren't excited, nobody's getting paid. Okay. And no one's going to put their money in this. There's no charity here. Very little. This is all about the fans and what can we do to energize those fans and make those fans decide. Nobody gets that like Roger Penske. Nobody.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Roger gets it. And so, and by the way, the guys that were running IndyCar under the Holman George family, they do a great job, between, Mark Miles, Doug, and we particularly, Mike and I both have tremendous respect for what Jay Fry's done with the series and what Jay's done for us to let us get started and stay in the sport has been terrific for us. Yeah. But Roger is taking this thing to the next level. And that's what, Mike called me, I think it was after Roger's first press conference. And he almost said, can you believe our luck? And I said, well, what do you mean? This is before COVID, obviously. I said, well, what do you mean? He goes, man, we are in this at absolutely the right time. This is we're just going to keep gaining momentum. Now, the sport was gaining momentum before Roger came in. Don't misread me. The people that run the series have done, I think, remarkable work. But now I think we can go more. So the answer to the question is I'm thrilled with it. And I think I know for two of our sponsors, I'll speak first for my good friend Mark Cannon, who is the senior executive at AutoNation, who is our key partner in both IMSA and IndyCars. Okay, Mark is thrilled with the trajectory the sport's on, and Mark's not just on our car; he's also on a couple of the other Andretti cars. Right. Although we know where his heart lies. We know where it lies.
Yeah.
Mark he'll be cringing that I'm saying that, but he knows. We know where his heart lies. And then I can tell you where SiriusXM lies and how thrilled we are with. Although I tell you, Tim, man, I'm looking so forward. That's the one thing I'm disappointed about getting started, because I'm teaching a couple of really high-priced executives who are as good as I've ever seen, who think the sun rises and sets in Manhattan, in New York City. And I'm not sure they knew what a race car was until I started getting them. And I'm going to tell you, I got one already that we had out to the Speedway last year. We got him. Okay. Yeah. We you could see it in his eyes when he's out there.
Oh, yeah.
And frankly, when the sponsor's engaged, as you well know, it makes the relationship work that's them. AutoNation does it right. They really do. Every race for them is a promotional event, an entertainment event, and they do, I mean, they take full, they make full use of the value of across having Jack appear at their dealership, Jack in their commercial, things like that. It's been great, but yeah, I think we're in it absolutely at the right time. We'll get through this,
Yeah.
The country's going to get through this. Look, this is America. This is what makes us great. I mean,
yeah,
we're at our best when we're pushed hard, and I'm not saying it's not going to be difficult. I have no idea how hard it might get here. I'm hoping, we get through this as quick as some have thought, and the economy recovers as quick as some have said. I don't know. I don't know whether that'll happen or not. We're preparing for a variety of scenarios, but we will get through this. And I'm positive that IndyCar, and by the way, the guys at IMSA have done a great job with the IMSA series. I mean,
yeah,
you just look at the way it's grown in popularity, the TV coverage we now get. Obviously, Sirius carries all the IndyCar races and the IMSA car races, and so I think I like where we are. I like where we are and where our sport is. Quite candidly, better than some other sports. So
yeah,
we'll see.
Mike, it is interesting how serendipity puts you together with somebody on occasion, and it's put you together with a hell of a guy in Jim Meyer, right? I mean, I would think you're sitting there listening to him talk about the future, et cetera, and that's buoying you, right?
Absolutely. It's just timing. Jim and I got together at the right time. Jim and I got an IndyCar at the right time. MSR got into sports car racing. It's just every moment of our life that gone up is all just the right time to jump, right?
Yeah.
And, so far, so good, Tim.
Well, ladies and
Hey,
gentlemen,
Tim, though, I got to tell you, myself and some of my friends, we're pretty passionate about this thing. I won't tell you, we don't embarrass them a few times.
yeah. I can imagine, man. That's why I want to come and sit around the campfire.
I can tell you, there's seldom a problem taking the coolers home from the races. They're empty when we leave.
It's like they got helium in them, right?
Yeah. This is supposed to be, for me, it's, not for me. I'm in a different place than Mike. Okay, Mike,
Yeah.
This is what Mike does, and Mike's really good at it. Okay, for me, it's I just love it, and it's not only do I love the intensity and the professionalism and what's got to get there, but for me, it's just a hell of a lot of fun.
Yeah,
and that's why I got into it, and it hasn't disappointed me in any way.
I was going to say, it's got to beat a board meeting any day of the week, I would think.
It does. It does. By the way, for me, I'm lucky because my kids really like racing. My wife likes to come to. They don't like going to as many races as I go to, or certainly I don't go to as many as Mike goes to.
Yeah.
So, but it's great to be able to have them around with it as well, and it makes it a heck of a lot easier if there are others that get it as well, so that you're not kind of getting all the time again of wait a minute, where are you going to again? And blah blah blah. So
yeah.
So in any event, I just going to say to our team, we got big expectations, boys. So we need to bring it. We need to bring it hard, starting June 6th. So,
go get them, as the old saying goes, right?
That's it. We got big expectations this year.
I know. I real quick before we go, how do you couch that though, Jim? Because you're a race fan. Even Roger Penske doesn't win every race. If you follow my drift, you have to go into it with realism, but also big time hopes, right?
Yeah, 2 years ago, I'll never forget this. I was walking in the in the pits during qualifications, and it was I can't remember the exact situation, but I think we ended up starting 30th or 31st. I can't remember. And I was kind of worried we might not make it, right? Which,
Yeah.
you know, and in hindsight, we had a lot of margin that we would have made it, but and that's nerve wracking. Okay. And Roger said to me, came up and he said, you know, you're going to be fine or something like that. And
Wow.
I kind of looked at him, and then he immediately told me the story, which we all remember well, about the year none of his cars qualified.
1995,
right?
ladies and gentlemen. Yeah.
And he said to me, Jim, there's nothing more humbling than that experience, and there's nothing you'll ever learn more from than that experience.
Yeah.
And he walked away, and you know, and I get it now, and
we almost won that race that year.
Yeah, of course. Then, so I got to tell you, it's a frustrating sport because it is hard. You know, there are just so many things also that you don't control that can go wrong. And one of the things, by the way, is you really got to be accountable to everybody. Everybody on the team has to be accountable.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
step up. And when there's a problem, whoever created that problem has got to be accountable to step up and fix it, or the time it takes to realize it, too much is lost. You know what I mean? And,
Yes.
And I mean, and I'm not talking about just in the race. I'm talking about in practice, in setup, in qualifications, the whole thing, right? And so, and then of course, there's always the other guy, you know, what the other person does, right? And
Right.
that's another favorite, you know, which is, you know, not my fault, right? You know.
Yeah.
I mean?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And by the way, you know, now that I'm really in it, there is plenty of that where there's nothing anybody can do, and you know, and I kind of believe though those balance themselves out. You know, there's you can't believe this and what horrible luck it is, and then there'll be another day where you're like, well, how do we even get back on the lead lap? You know, I mean,
Right.
you know, because we've been struggling all day, and then a couple of things will happen and we'll get there. So it's a sport of up and downs. And but I know I've lived my whole life, and I believe this. You work hard enough and you stay at it long enough, and you pride yourself, and, you know, every day trying to do a better job than I did the day before, we'll be just fine as a team. And I couldn't be prouder of where we are right now.
Yeah.
And, you know, heck, I got to tell you, Tim, for our little, you know, our operation, I mean, we won the IMSA championship last year in GTD.
Right.
Okay. We raced in 10 races, except for both a little bit of bad luck and a couple of mistakes we made. You know, we were very competitive in many of those races, and we were on the podium at the Grand Prix, and we had a couple of Portland. We had a great chance to be on. You know, we started second. We had a great chance to be on the podium. We just had some bad luck and got hit from behind, and there's nothing you can do about that. You know,
Right.
I mean, when it happens, but we're coming, man. We're coming.
Ladies and gentlemen, as Jim Meyer has said many times on this podcast, he's chomping at the bit to see his team get racing. And the next time we talk, Mike, I think there might be a race in the books. You might be getting ready for a race, right?
That's right. We'll have the Texas race in the books. You know, we've had a great week this week, Tim. We've got, you know, 5 people, Jim, that I think had a lot to do with where MSR is today. We'll put those out on our podcast, to include Jack, AJ, Oswaldo, and Brian Bailey. So it gives everybody a little sneak peek into why we are where we are today.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, this is Tim May on behalf of Mike Shank and the Incomparable. You know, you guys ought to rename your team the Incomparables. The Incomparable Mike Shank and the Incomparable Jim Meyer. We'll see you next time.